Good morning. Today I'm going to give an overview as briefly as I can into how I self-published my book, because I know a lot of people are interested in self-publishing and how that works. So I thought I would just share my experience of getting my book in print and on Amazon. So first, to start with, a caveat: I'm not an expert in self-publishing. I'm literally just going to share my experience and some of the things that I learned along the way. So obviously I was writing a book. I knew that I wanted to have it in print. And I knew I wanted to have it online because I have some people living in different countries that were interested. So that was what I needed. With traditional publishing, a publisher will take care of different aspects like the physical printing, the marketing, and the distribution, whether that's through shops or through online. So I knew that that route wasn't for me because I knew that my book had a very niche audience. So it's mainly people that we know, friends, family, and members of our church community. So I knew I had to find ways to reach those people. So I wanted to self-publish. And when I started, I knew nothing about that process. And I did work with a book coach just for a few months. And she gave me some tips and pointers to get me started. But I didn't really do anything until I finished the manuscript. So I actually finished the manuscript, and then it was like, oh my goodness, what do I do now? And I spoke to my book coach and she gave me some pointers. So apparently it's not just one or the other. There's not just publishers that do everything if they like your book and then they take the rights, or you do it yourself. There's some kind of options in between. So there are some new publishers or publishers that offer a suite of services, and some of them help self-publishers and do like a hybrid route. So that works well if you've got lots of money up front, because you then pay them to do the printing, the design, the checking, the editing. You pay them to do that. And there's different models. I will say there's one company that has like a nice infographic on their website. They're called Whitefox. And they have a nice infographic and they talk through all the different options and different models. So that might be a good place to start. But if you've got a pot of money, but you still want to self-publish, then you can go to someone and pay them. And you're talking, I did get some quotes from some of those, and they were coming in at £7,000-8,000, and I didn't have that up front. But also there's a time delay, because they were saying to me, oh yeah, we can fit it in August, and that was like 8 months away from where we were. So then if you're using them, then you have to fit with their schedule of when they've got space. So that's the kind of hybrid option that you could choose to go for. So as I say, I wanted print copy and I wanted online copy. So we're going to talk about Amazon next. So Amazon is very easy marketplace for self-publishers. There are other online publishers, there's other sites as well. I just went with Amazon because everybody knows it and it just seemed the easiest. So Amazon's useful for two things. It's useful for online books, obviously, like the Kindle version. And you can also sell hard copies through Amazon. And this is the thing that a lot of people don't know, and I probably didn't know at the beginning. So Amazon do something called print on demand. So if I put my book on Amazon, all that means is I upload the files, and then if somebody in a different country, if somebody in Australia wants to buy my book, they buy it through the site, and then Amazon sends my digital file to one of their selected printers, and they will print off one copy and post it to that person. So it literally means you can have physical copies of your book going out all over the world. So that's a really, really cool thing, and not everybody knows you can do that. It works well for most books, but for my book, I had a lot of pictures in it. So what I found was the quality wasn't so good. And I can actually show you So this is one that I got printed at a printer, and this is one that I got printed via Amazon print on demand. So the color on this one is a little bit brighter on the cover. And if I go to some of the pictures inside, I'll find one now. So here's a picture of a building. It's an old building from an old magazine is the picture. So you can see the kind of quality. So that's in the one I got printed. So if we go to the same page in this one, and I haven't checked this in advance, some of them came out better than others. But well, actually, that one doesn't look too bad. But maybe, and this is the thing, sometimes you get lucky with print on demand and sometimes you don't. So there's definitely a variance in the quality, like those pictures there, a little bit dark. So actually, most of these ones are all right, but I've got other copies on my shelf where they're not too great. Yeah, these ones are a bit dark. So the Amazon print on demand is, yeah, great for if you've got a straight up printed book with text, no problem. It can work really, really well. If you've got pictures or something else, then it might not be the best thing. So, but essentially Amazon works really well. It's called KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing. You set up an account and then you can upload your files. And it's like a different file for the EPUB version, the digital version, the Kindle version, as to the print version. So anyway, but I've kind of jumped a stage. So let me just backtrack. So, so I'd finished my manuscript. I finished it about beginning of December last year. And then there's several stages you have to go through. So, and I have to say, you say, you know, finish your manuscript. I'd had it checked. My book coach had looked at some of it, not all of it. I couldn't afford to pay her to read all of it and do like they call it a structural edit. So I couldn't afford a full structural edit where she would look at everything. We're not talking about grammar or punctuation. We're talking about the flow of the story. So she did like the first quarter structural edit and gave me some really good feedback, but then I applied that same thinking on the rest and went through the rest with a critical eye, and I got my husband to read it, and I do trust his judgment very, very much because he's an excellent writer himself and he writes really complex things and makes them really simple. So I trusted his judgment. So we did our own kind of structural edit. So then you're advised to do a copy edit. So this is someone just reading the words. Are there any typos? Are there any, repetition was a big one. So sometimes you use a word and then you're using the same word in 2 sentences later and it just doesn't flow so well. In my book, I had a lot of quoting other sources. So I wanted to make sure I'd used the right indentation, the right speech marks, yeah, and so stylistically, there was a lot to look at in my book. So like when I was quoting big chunks from a blog, do I use a different font? Do I italicize it? You know, there were questions that I didn't know what was best. So I wanted an expert to read all the text, make sure I'd, you know, my grammar, my spelling, my punctuation, use of numbers, dates, whatever, but all those kind of conventions. So you need a copy editor. And I was like, well, where do I find a copy editor? And there's you can go online, you can look on places like Fiverr or Upwork. Really, it's nice to get a recommendation. There's a couple of professional associations that list all these people, and I went on one of them, but I found it really confusing. There were so many people, and I would message them, and they'd be too busy because I needed somebody like right now. I left it all a bit last minute. So actually, I spoke to somebody else. I spoke to the typesetting company that had been recommended, and they recommended a copy editor. So I contacted this lady. She gave me a quote. She could do it straight away. It took about 3 weeks. I sent her the first half of the book. I was still tweaking the second half. And then she sent me the first half back and I sent her the second half. That did get confusing. I wouldn't recommend that. At this stage, this is really important. You want to just have one version that you're working on. You can't be working on multiple versions, because if she's making a tweak and it's just an apostrophe, and then you're working on a different version, then yeah. So she was working on the final version using Word, using the tracking editing tool. So she put all her things in, she put a lot of questions in, and she was great. She would even, if I'd mentioned a newspaper, she would even Google the name of it to make sure I got the name correct, that type of thing. And actually something I left till the very end, that then I actually didn't do this till later, and I should have done it sooner, and that was pictures, because I put pictures in the book after this stage, and then I realized the pictures needed captions, and so then I had to go back to my copy editor and say, are my captions okay? Because it's really tricky to write really succinct captions. So I should have done that at that stage, really, but anyway, you live and learn. So yeah, copy editor. So once I'd finished with the copy editor and we'd got the file back and I'd approved or amended and then got a final thing, then it goes off to a typesetter. And again, all these people are busy, so you have to book your project in advance. So it's like a production line that your book goes through. So it went to the typesetter. They knew it was coming, so they had time booked in for my project. And my typesetter was doing two versions. He was doing the print version and the Kindle version, because they're different, they look different. So they obviously use a computer program and they just pop it all in, choose what font, and it all looks amazing, and then they just check that there's no funny pages where they're just a bit at the bottom. So that would have been straightforward, but I hadn't sorted the pictures. So then I start sending him all these pictures. Yeah, a tip from me, don't leave the pictures till the very end, because I had to spend 2 weeks full time sourcing pictures, because I was using a lot of old pictures. I had to find them, I had to get the best copy, I had to get things scanned. It was a lot of work, and then I had to work out where in the book they went. It took, I mean, I must have reread the book a dozen times, working out where all these pictures should go. But anyway, sent in the pictures, redid the layout, tweaked a few bits. Fine. Now, my typesetter also was going to do the cover, but very quickly we discovered that, because I wanted to use a photo, the photo needed a bit of editing, and he wasn't a professional graphic designer. So we kind of realized, actually, I need a professional graphic designer. So that was then a bit of a challenge, because I was all ready to go, all ready to send it all to print, but I didn't have a cover and I didn't have a graphic designer, and I didn't know anybody that was in my price range, that was an expert in books, and so on. So I was looking again, I was looking on Fiverr, I was looking on Upwork. And in the end, my book coach recommended somebody to me. I reached out, and luckily he had availability. So I did have to pay. You know, if people are good, you have to pay. If you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. That's always the risk. And I wanted a really quality cover. So all this takes a few weeks. So yeah, I started at the beginning of December, did the copy editing in December. January was typesetting and photos. February was kind of cover design, and I was spending hours online Googling like YouTube videos, watching YouTube videos of how to get your book on Amazon and all this stuff. And yeah, they make it quite simple, but it's still, you still have to like figure it out when you're doing it for the first time. I also knew I wanted print copies of my book. So the typesetter had also recommended a good printer in the UK that did short run printing, because there's lots of printers around, but it's horses for courses. Some of them are specialists in different types of printing. If you're doing a short run, as I was, you want to find someone that can price effectively for that. So I found a really great printer, and they helped me. And you can tell a good book printer, if they're a good one, they should have like a tool on their website where you put in the dimensions, how many pages, you put in a bunch of information, and it gives you a quote. And then the really good ones have customer support. because like me, I was new. I didn't know how to answer all the questions. I didn't know what kind of paper type, kind of ink, all these decisions you have to make. So they had good customer support. I could just put my questions in the chat or just call up and speak to somebody, and they would guide me through and make a recommendation of this paper or this cover type and so on. So I found a printer in the UK. I had 100 copies printed and delivered. And then I did hit my goal of my date to have it all out there. Amazon caught me out a little bit, because if you make a change in your KDP environment, if you make a change to something like upload a new file for the cover, then it takes a few days for it to come through. And I made a little mistake at the beginning, that I uploaded a cover file that wasn't quite right. And so when I tested and ordered a book, I don't know if I've got it. I've probably got it somewhere, but I've got a book somewhere where my name is off the bottom of the page, because I didn't follow their guidelines and have it within the thing, and I thought it would be okay, and it wasn't. And that's the thing with Amazon as well. As an author, you can order author copies, so they're copies at cost price. So I ordered, obviously, as soon as it went live on Amazon, for the Kindle version, oh no, for the print version, I ordered myself a copy at the author price, and then I saw it looked horrible, so I had to change the cover. So I went live a couple of days after I wanted to, but that was fine. Then I realized I didn't have any books here in the Netherlands, and that was a bit of a problem, because the ones in the UK, originally I thought the printer could post some to me, but then I realized we have customs. So I had to find another printer here, and that took a bit of time. But because I already knew the pricing of the one in the UK, that I knew I wanted to find a similar pricing here. So it was just a question of keep looking at all these printers online until I found one that fit. So anyway, that was a whistle-stop tour. Oh yeah, ISBNs, that's the other thing. When you're going through the printing process, you have to make all these decisions, and ISBNs was one of them. My book coach said to me, are you going to have an ISBN on the back? And I was like, well, should I? I didn't know it was a choice. I just thought all books had an ISBN. So and there's lots of Googling about ISBNs came from that. So I guess I didn't need one, because my book wasn't going in a shop, but I wanted one just in case it did go in a shop, because we do have church bookstores. So I kind of wanted one anyway. If you put your book on Amazon without an ISBN, they will put their own Amazon ISBN on it. So you don't need it. But I did register for ISBNs, and for the ISBN, you have to, there's like a central register, and every country has only one company that sell those ISBNs. So here I had to buy mine from the Dutch, whatever they're called, ISBN or NL or something. So I had to buy them from there. And you can buy them online, and they price them so that it's more economical to get multiples. So I now have 10 ISBN numbers in my account. I've used 2. So I've used one for the print version and one for the Kindle version. So I still have 8. So if I do future projects, which I am planning on doing, then I've already got my bank of ISBN numbers. So I got them assigned to me, and on the website it's just a number. And then I was like, well, how do I actually get the barcode thing on the book? And you can do that different ways. So on the place where I bought my ISBNs, I can order the barcode from them, but they charge quite a lot of money for that. So I didn't want to do that. But luckily, when I went to my printer, the printer were like, do you have ISBNs? I was like, yeah, I've got the number. So I gave them the number, and they generate the barcode and place it. Which was great, because you can buy barcodes online. You can put your number in and buy them, but you have to pay more. Whereas doing it through my printer, I didn't have to pay any extra. But just to show you the backs of the books. So that was the one that we printed ourselves, and this is the Amazon one. So you can see they put the barcode in different place. That's my barcode from my number, and I don't know what this one is. Maybe it's their one. And I actually don't know what this QR code is, but maybe I ticked a box for QR code. Don't know if it works. So anyway, that's my little brief overview of some of the things that I've learned through self-publishing my book. And yeah, I hope that's interesting. I'll put some of the companies that I mentioned in the comments. I'll put some links. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments, and then I can always come back and answer your questions.